Doesn't really matter if you're a fan or not of the Cobra or the kit car industry or the replicar industry or the homemade car industry. If you're a car guy, you have to appreciate how Superformance builds their Mark III and their Coupe. It's more than impressive. We did a plant tour here, and I'm going to take you through the plant, and I think what you're going to see is going to be shocking. We start off in the mold shop. There are literally hundreds of molds here that are producing panels every single day. They're all hand laid, 4 layers of fiberglass, a layer of core mat. That strengthens the entire body, and they use it throughout the entire body. After the fiberglass is popped out of the mold, it goes to the post-curing oven. They raise the temperature there to 180 degrees, and what that does is it cures the fiberglass, and there's no inconsistencies. It's allowed to shrink, and it stabilizes the fiberglass, so later it won't shrink, and you'll see some of those cracks, or you see the fiberglass strands showing through the paint. From there, it goes over to the body shop, and these guys spend a lot of time block sanding. They take down all the seams, they make sure the panel fit is exceptional. If you have a look at the work here being done, it's no different than a show car. All the gaps are precise. After it comes out of the body shop, it gets primed. They use a high build primer. It then gets block sanded again and goes for final inspection through this bright light tunnel where every little imperfection shows up. From there, it goes into the final priming shop, and what they have here is 3 booths right in a row. They use tinted primer, so the paint material isn't built up as much. You can use less paint if your primer's been tinted. There it gets final sanded. They go 400 dry and they go to 600 dry, prepped again like a show car. After final inspection, it's taken over to the spray booth area. These are high-tech spray booths developed here. They're all downdraft systems. All the paint is base clear. It's custom order. If you want stripes, if you want the meatballs, if you want an extra coat of clear, it can be all done here. You can pick any color you like. Once the paint's complete, it goes over to the polishing area. No different than the way we polish a car. They dry sand the car, then they wet sand it, then it's polished. Every inch of the car is polished. It's a beautiful job. Over here, the paint job would be $10,000 to $15,000 to replicate. The chassis is manufactured right here. They have many jigs in place. They have sub-assembly areas where they make the front section, the rear section. It all comes together on this giant jig that holds the entire chassis. Everything is MIG welded and is exactly precise. All the suspension points are picked up in the right spot. The next section is where the body actually gets pulled over top of the frame, and this is where the car starts to look like a car. Next week, we're going to get to tour the CNC shop, the welding shop, the final assembly shop, the upholstery shop. And I'll tell you what, I am so impressed with how this company builds these cars. You're going to want to stay tuned for next week. It's even more impressive. Like I said last week, I can't tell you how impressed I am with the guys here at Superformance. These guys truly manufacture the car. Over 2,200 of the pieces that go onto the Mark III and onto the Coupe are produced right here in the plant in South Africa. It is more than impressive. Let me give you a tour through the CNC shop. These people are not just assemblers, they are truly in the manufacturing business. They build the hubs, they build the splines, they build the gas caps. Everything is made right here on the premises. The knockoff hub starts as a billet piece of steel, and it is machined and machined and machined until you have the final product. The spindles are cast here and then put in the CNC machine. All the holes are drilled. This thing is a work of art. In the fabrication side, they build the header tanks out of stainless steel. They were originally built for the Galaxy. There's not any left. So what does Superformance do? They build them, they press them right here. A very impressive piece. All the headers, all the side pipes, built right here. Built-in jigs, so they fit perfectly when you're ready to do the installation of the motor. Pretty much all of the chrome pieces are built here at Superformance as well, and they're not really chrome. They build everything in stainless and polish it to look like chrome. The bumpers, the roll bars, the e-brake handle, all those pieces are really stainless steel. That way they won't corrode, the stainless won't ever peel. The radiators are also manufactured right here. They're all TIG welded, and again, it has the proper bungs, proper fittings exactly for this car, making the installation of the motor and all the hoses that much easier when you get the car. All the upholstery is done right here. The seats, again, are molded originally in the fiberglass shop. They come over here, all the bolsters installed. All the stitching is done right here. Starts out as just a leather hide pulled off the roll, ends up being a beautiful seat. Carpets are all cut here. All the wiring harnesses, they're assembled right here. They start out with some wires and connections, have a layout board, so every harness is exactly the same. The entire dash is assembled right here and brought over to the final assembly area. That's where we are right now. The attention to detail in this area is certainly more than what I was expecting. Everything is precise, everything is marked after it's installed. It's absolute perfection. The other thing that just blows me away about the people here at Superformance, there's over 600 employees here, there's over 250,000 2,000 square feet. The place is spotless. This place is like a Winston Cup shop. The place runs efficiently. The cars are brought out. They're shipped by containers in these special pallets. It's an exceptional operation. If you ever have the chance to make your way out here, convince the wife that she needs to go to South Africa. It's worth the trip. Stop by at High Tech where the Superformances are built.
The Modern Dream Car is brought to you by Superformance Complete Replicars.
A few years ago, my partner Peter Kloot drove a real Daytona Coupe at Watkins Glen. If you ever want to see him flash the pearly whites, just mention that day to him. It's truly one of his favorite cars on the planet. Now, 6 years ago, Jim Price said the real deal will always be the real deal, and the owners of the truly great cars know the difference. He wanted to create a replica of that Daytona Coupe so that mere mortals like you and I could buy one. The first thing that you appreciate in this new coupe that Superformance has built is the fact that it has air conditioning. Now, this particular car is fettled with 500 horsepower, and 500 horsepower on this tight little circuit, as we just start to see a bit of rain coming down now, is kind of wasted. Power steering works perfectly, and then you come onto the straightaway and begin to add power, and holy smoke, does it ever start to work up here around 130 miles an hour. Now, the fit and finish of these cars is absolutely immaculate. Superformance has made a reputation for themselves in North America with the Mark III, and this new Superformance Coupe is every bit as good as the Mark III in terms of being screwed together. You're fairly comfortable in here. The air conditioning makes a huge difference, and I'll tell you, when you arrive in one of these things, you're going to be the only guy in your block for quite some time to have anything that looks like this. Now, the engineers who are with us here today at this beautiful little circuit near Port Elizabeth, South Africa, went out with a GPS device recently on a road that we won't mention and unofficially clocked 206 miles an hour. So, you've got to ask yourself, do you need a car like this? Well, nobody really needs a Superformance Coupe. But do you want a car like this? Oh my God, with every fiber in my being, I want a car like this.
The Modern Dream Car is brought to you by Superformance Complete Replicars.
The people from High Tech Automotive have dubbed this a replicar. They don't mind what you call it. You can use the nomenclature that is known by under its Superformance brand name, the Mark III, so long as you don't call it a kit car. They're fully assembled in Port Elizabeth, South Africa, and that's exactly where we are today with the trusty old test mule from High Tech Automotive. Now, straight out of the box, there's absolutely nothing like driving one of these Mark IIIs. The olfactory sense is absolutely acute. You can smell the hot engine. You can hear the exhaust just magnificently because the side pipe is right there. Now, the way the car is delivered to North America is without engine and transmission, so you get to have fun making some choices there. The mechanicals are absolutely stunning. The fit and finish in this car is better than you're likely to do for yourself. But every one of these Superformance cars have a huge quality control package that they go through, and by the time the dealer delivers it to you, its fit and finish is absolutely perfect. The paint on these cars is wonderful. It's a little wider through the body so that a big guy has a better chance of driving one of these cars successfully. Now, 2 up in a car like this is going to be just fine for a long trip.
Matthew, I'm telling you, we missed it back there a couple miles.
I'm telling you, it's just up here. We'll be able to do it.
I'm telling you, it was 2 miles back there.
How can it be 2 miles back there? We came from down here the last time.
Oh, we came from that way.
We did not. It's down here.
Tom, I'm telling you, missed a corner back there.
No, it's right down here.
You know, we're shooting a modern dream car at the racetrack. He says he knows where we're going. Bull, he knows where he's going. Look at the guy. He's kicking rocks over there. Dumb, get back in the car. Let's go. Actually, not only is it the wrong way, but oh, man. Tom, you're not supposed to get out of the car to take pictures.
Who said?
All I know is when I go to the African Lion Safari back home, they say stay in the car. We're in the real African thing here. You're not supposed to get out. Matter of fact, I think I'm leaving now because I do see a lion under that tree.
Well, we've obviously had a bit of fun with this one, but we want you to know at the end of the day, the Mark III actually did the job. Over 450 kilometers, all of them very hard, and most of them over potholed roads. The Mark III is a car that not only you can use for a weekend, but you can take it to a game reserve here at Chimwari and Eagles Crag and really enjoy your weekend. It's pretty darn remarkable. You know, it's kind of cool. The last time we saw this car, it was 8,000 miles away on the shores of the Indian Ocean. Now it's here in the floor at Legendary Motor Car. It's time to do our engine install. Now, when they built the Mark III, they did all of their beta testing using Roush power. Now, of course, Jim Price thought if you're going to use a Ford engine, you might as well have Jack Roush build it. And that's exactly what we've gone to today. Jack Roush's crate motor called the 402R. Now it makes 500 horsepower and it makes 500 foot-pounds of torque. What a piece. Now what you're looking at here is a 351 block that's bored over. 4-inch stroke, 4-inch bore, makes 402 inches. Forged crank, forged pistons, forged rods, all of the good stuff in the block. Now every one of these things is dyno tested, and you get a document sheet that goes right along with that. Also, it comes with a 2-year warranty. So basically what you're buying is a racing motor with a 2-year warranty. Now we've chosen a 5-speed Trimec gearbox to match it up to. Now the process of getting this engine into this car isn't a complicated one, but it's one that you're going to want to take some time in doing, and you might just pick up a couple of tips by watching Andrew from Legendary Motor Car supervise the installation of this one. Talking to the guys in the Superformance community, they really like this combination because of the big block power and a small block package, and it's this fairly small package that really gives us an advantage here. Now, the motor almost has to go 90 degrees when it's in combination with the transmission just to fit inside the hole, and it's a slow process, inching it down there, making sure that everything matches up right. Then, once the exhaust is hooked up and everything is in place, you can start to attach some of the accessories. Now, Roush does an exceptional job in finishing these things up. Going along with the aluminum intake manifold and these Roush-styled valve covers, anybody who looks under the hood of this thing is going to realize it's a serious piece, but it's far from a poser motor. After all, over 500 horsepower ought to get this Mark III down the road very smartly. Now, all of this work goes towards one end. What you want to do is get the thing running, take it out for your first drive.
Are we ready to rock and roll? We're gathered here at the Virginia International Raceway in our biannual owners education day, if you like. These cars are very high powered, very, very tricky to drive quickly. So we like to get our owners out here and give them an opportunity to learn how to drive their cars.
I think the reason why it's so appealing here too, and VIR is such a beautiful place up here, and there's so many different interesting people to learn from, as well as it's fun and exciting and challenging.
The demographics of our owner group is really somebody who grew up in the 60s, was probably in college or still in high school. They'd seen their first Cobras, drooled over them, been thinking about them ever since.
Most of us have lusted after a car like this for many, many years. Myself, I was, as a child, went to Riverside Raceway in October of '62, which was one of the first races that the Cobra's ever had, and went through the races at Riverside in California all the way through '63. And so I go back a ways in wanting one of these cars, but it took me quite a few years before I could get one.
They now have a bit of extra money to be able to buy their own toys. And it's just that sort of thing that appeals to the age group, I would say 40 to 65.
Well, I've grown up with cars like this, muscle cars, And I just think it's a challenging car. You can drive this, you can drive most any others.
The interesting part about the Cobra is the body shape. It's a shape that doesn't seem to go out of style.
The original cars, I think, are irreplaceable. They're very expensive cars. They might be a little fragile, and if you break one or hurt one, that one's gone forever. But Superformance cars, they're robust, they're dependable.
What would be the best possible engine for a car like this? Well, I like the Windsor engine in these cars. And this particular engine is an aluminum block. It comes from RDI, which is just north of Charlotte. It's got iron sleeves in it, so you can bore it out to 4 1/8, stroke it out to 4 inches, which gives you 427 cubic inches, which is the magic number.
Hey Pete, I got to get 2 Superformance cars over to Watkins Glen for the big race. You think you guys can give me a hand?
Sure, no sweat.
Hey, isn't that Tom?
Hey, Nacho, what are you getting, breakfast?
But I'll share with you.
Thanks. Hey, nice try, Nacho. Hey, Nacho, you could use a man's ear. Tell you what, it's a good thing Nacho's never had to do a Le Mans start. He'd lose the race before it even started.
Well, Peter's probably going to get some kind of an advantage on the Le Mans start. That's the way he always is. He's so bloody competitive.
Now, Nacho, he'll try all sorts of shortcuts and gravel roads and all sorts of things. So I'll give him credit. If he gets lost, I think his wife feeded into him, asked for directions. He always does.
Now, Peter's running a 427-inch engine in that Peter Brock Coupe. But blinding speed isn't the only way to win one of these competitions. I just happen to know a shortcut right up here. Okay, maybe that wasn't the shortcut. Now, the great thing about these Superformance cars is they're absolutely stone reliable. So being broken down on the side of the road is not something that's likely to happen, which when you're going to a vintage race, quite often does. Now, this Mark III Coupe has a 351 in it, fairly mild, only 385 horsepower. But it's plenty, especially for this 2-lane blacktop stuff. Hey man, can you do me a favor, please? There's gonna be a guy pull up here in a white and blue car. If there's any way you could hold him up for 15 minutes, I'd really appreciate that. I got $10 Canadian.
What's going on?
Well, we've had an accident up the road, and we got to hold you up for about 4 or 5 minutes.
Looks like a construction sign. Did a big, bald, fat guy put you up to this and offer you Canadian money?
Well, he might have, yeah.
Dummy, here's some real money. What's the fastest way to the Glen?
Well, being this American money, you just go up here about a mile and make a left, and that get you ahead of him. It should.
Perfect, thank you. Appreciate it. You'll always outsmart him. Nacho, that son of a trying to bribe that guy. A typical Tom trying to save a buck offers him Canadian money.
So here we are pulling in gate 2 at Watkins Glen. And there's that smug Peter standing up there. I don't know how he did it, but I know there was cheating involved.
Wonder what excuse he'll come up with now. Hey buddy, what took you so long?
I've been at Seneca Lodge. I drank the beer, I kissed the girl. I didn't think you were supposed to be here.
Nice story. I knew you'd have some sort of excuse.
How long you been here? You don't even wear a watch.
At least 5 minutes. I think you lose, buddy, so you are buying the beer tonight at Seneca Lodge.
What else is new? I think it's been well established that our friends at Superformance build fantastic cars, but it's really the lifestyle elements within that Superformance family that has attracted us to them as car guys. And Michael Motorsports just opened a brand new shop right across the road from Road Atlanta. We were lucky enough to be there and talk to some very enthusiastic owners of Superformance cars.
And last year we went out with basically a box stock 03 Cobra. We put headers on it, a new air intake. We drove it 2,200 miles to Bonneville, set a land speed record at 176, and came back and drove it back. This year we did a few more things to it. MV Performance over here in Stedham built us a motor that puts out 614 rear wheel horsepower and 612 pounds of torque. And we set the new land speed record, broke my own record at 203.231.
And I think if you talk to Superformance owners, you know, that they bought the car, but they bought into a fraternity of owners that enjoy their cars and enjoy a lot of other things. Well, I was very fortunate personally to be able to go over to the factory with Peter Brock last spring to do the final review on the coupe. And I'm telling you, it is an absolutely gorgeous car. It's beautiful, it's quick, it's well built, well engineered.
Well, it started off, I was looking for the smallest, lightest car to have the biggest possible engine and to be street legal. When I started looking into Superformance, I realized they had a pretty strong following, and I wound up with one. I got back home, it was the inevitable started. I built a new engine from scratch. It's an aluminum block, dart block, Windsor, 427 cubic inches, and it's my dream motor. Superformance people are that way. They're a bunch, they really do love their cars, and it's a really great community.
Well, it's a modern rendition of a classic. You know, at Sebring I've seen the winningest coupe, the winningest Shelby Daytona, and it's a beat up piece of junk compared to what they've got here today. I mean, it's a modern supercar with the air conditioning, watertight. It's just a beautiful way to cruise. Being from Central Florida, it's hot, it's wet. A lot of times I can't get my Cobra out on the road. Looking at something that maybe I can fill in those summer months with. Well, probably the reason I got the Superformance to start with is I knew that if I ever wanted to sell the car, which heaven forbid would ever happen, I knew that I could call somebody across the country, tell them my chassis number, they'd know exactly what I had in the car. It wasn't a conglomeration of used parts that some guy put together in his garage. It gave me a certain confidence level that I was buying something that had value and people across the country would know exactly what that value was.
It's the end of a season when we've been celebrating Superformance and the great cars they build. From South Africa to North America, you know, we've been amazed primarily about the quality. I remember when we went back to the factory, the things that were going on there were so above and beyond our expectations for a manufacturing facility all the way over there in Port Elizabeth. And then this year we've gotten to know a lot of the dealers. And, you know, for the most part, all of these guys are operating at exactly that same level. This is a regular automobile company who shocked the world not only when they brought Pete Brock on to design the coupe, but when they finally came to terms with the venerable Carroll Shelby and now have him endorse their line of products. And then picking up the factory tour, when we went around there, we saw over 600 people that were completely dedicated to doing small jobs that ended up in something that was truly greater than the sum of the parts. Over 2,000 separate parts are built right in the Port Elizabeth facility. When they come over to North America, it's simply a matter of installing a drivetrain, and that's the beauty of the Superformance. You get to choose what drivetrain that you want to put in, and a garage mechanic, well, would take some time doing it. It certainly is possible, or you can choose to have a myriad of professional services for you. Remember, they worked with Roush since day one. But looking at these cars on the road and inspecting these cars mechanically is only one part of the experience. The next part of the experience is going to the showroom, sitting in one, and then maybe driving one. You see, the Superformance experience is like a dealership experience because they are dealerships. You know, when we first met Superformance, we called them kit cars, and boy, they jumped immediately down our throats. Now it's 2 years later, and I'm jumping down people's throats for calling them kit cars. They're so beautifully finished in South Africa that when the rolling chassis arrive here in North America, it's just a matter of having an engine installed. Everything else has already been done for you. You don't have to sort of realize a dream in abstract and then piece out those jobs to several different people to have your car built, or God bless you if you try to do it yourself. Now, I've seen a whole lot of beautiful kit cars, but every one of these is just like this every time. So the dealership experience means looking at a variety of fits and finishes, looking at a variety of engine options, and every dealer's got a demo car. Well, they're not a bit interested in giving 65 million test drives, but if you're a contender, you know that you can go out and spend a half a day in a Superformance car and bash it just like Peter and I did. You do that, even if you don't buy, at least you're aware that somebody is doing these things right.
The modern dream car is brought to you by Superformance, complete replicas.
Since the beginning, we've done over 80 modern dream cars, and among those have been some of the most fabulous cars ever built. This car, for the first time, we're giving it 2 episodes.
One of the problems that we had with the 1965 Cobra Roadsters is that they were aerodynamically very inefficient. They were a fabulous car on the short tracks of the United States, and we won 3 national championships with the car in 1963. But Carroll wanted to go over to Europe and race against Ferrari. Ford had not made any approval on that, but he had a goal to go over and race against Ferrari, and he asked me, can you build a car that will go faster and yet use the original chassis? And under the rules that were changed at that time in 1962, we were allowed to change the body completely. And I had some very good ideas aerodynamically that I had studied when I was working at General Motors. I found in their library when I was working on the Corvette Stingray for Bill Mitchell. And I came up with the idea, and at the time I'd actually tried to put those ideas across on the Corvette, but Mitchell didn't like those ideas. They felt they looked too antiquated. So I put those ideas kind of in my back pocket, and when I went to work for Carroll, the opportunity came up, and then I could do anything I wanted to because the project was mine. And this was really the first car that I'd done completely on my own. I'd done several other cars working for other people at their direction, but this was the first one that I did on my own, and we had to do it very quickly. So the papers that came from 1939 with the aerodynamic studies were the basis of this whole automobile. So that's where this design came from. It actually came from bus aerodynamics, and it was improved, put into an automobile, and I found the papers on those aerodynamic studies, and I was incredibly impressed by the CD numbers, and I tried to convince people at General Motors, but they would not listen. But when I had my own project to do, I could do the car any way I wanted, and this is the result. When we first went out to test the car at Riverside, it was 3.5 seconds faster than the Roadsters. We didn't find out until we went down to Daytona at the first race that it was also 25% more fuel efficient, which meant we didn't have to stop in the pits. So the car is incredibly efficient. The original cars, when they were raced in 1964, came that close to winning the World Championship. In fact, we would have won the World Championship in 1964 had not Enzo Ferrari canceled the race at Monza. He had enough power with the Automobile Club d'Italia to have the race canceled. And he had about a 2-point lead on us in the championship. And he knew that if we went to the last race, we were going to show up with 3 Daytona Coupes. We'd done it with only 1 for the beginning of the year. We would have 3 and we would annihilate him.
The modern dream car is brought to you by Superformance, complete replicas.
Since the beginning, we've done over 80 modern dream cars, and among those have been some of the most fabulous cars ever built. This car, a Superformance car, is so special, for the first time, we're giving it 2 episodes.
I had never heard of Superformance. I'd never heard about building cars in South Africa, and I didn't want to be part of a kit car operation. But Jimmy said, here's a ticket, come to South Africa, and if you still feel that way, then the project's off. I went down to South Africa, and I was so impressed with Superformance that it changed my mind completely. And then working with Jimmy over the past 5 years has been the best experience I've ever had in the automotive industry, because everything he ever said he would do, he did, and more. One of the wonderful things about working on this project is having the time to do it right, is that we had so many compromises at the beginning in rushing it through to make a race car out of it and get it on the track, that I was able to go back, especially with 40 years of looking at the car and saying, man, if I'd only had a chance to change that or change this, as I would like to have done it for a GT car. And Jimmy Price made that possible. For example, the original race car had flat side glass, so aerodynamically the air turbulated off the side. Jimmy said, "What do you want to do?" I said, "I want to put in curved side glass. That will not only make the car aesthetically prettier because the line off the base of the windshield follows around perfectly, but it will be also aerodynamically better." So these were all the sort of changes. If you look at the original race cars, the doors are rather crude. We were able to make the doors flow into the fenders. I was able to extend the wheelbase 3 inches so that we would have not only more room in the cockpit, but also insulated as far as heat and make it a lot nicer car to drive. It also made the fenders a lot more graceful. The one thing that was really interesting is that Jimmy was such an enthusiast about the car that he didn't want to change the wheels.